Hello and welcome to the movie podcast review of Morbius. My name is Daniel, and joining me today are my fellow vampires, Anthony.
Hello.
And Shahbaz.
Good evening.
Oh, there we go. I was hoping. Who vampire do you relate to the most in fiction, Shay?
The Count.
Okay.
From Sesame Street.
Okay, good. And how about yourself, Anthony?
Brad Pitt in Interview with the Vampire.
Okay.
That's the one with Jonathan Lipnicki. Yes.
No, that's not. But I will relate most to Little Vampire. I'll relate to that one. How are you guys doing though, Shay? I'll start with you. How are you doing?
You know, I'm doing great. Allergy season is back with a vengeance.
It's back. Maybe Michael Morbius will have a cure for you.
And that's the thing. Maybe I gotta inject some
bats
pollen in me and turn into Pollen Man or something.
Maybe a bee.
That is a cure to anything. Inject
the thing
what
you hate
you're
the most.
allergic to into you.
Become who you hate is what they say, right?
Interesting.
That's what every good origin story is.
Yeah.
Okay. Anthony, how are you doing though?
I'm in the same boat with Shay, but a different boat.
What are you?
My allergies they're there, but they haven't affected me as much as Shay's allergies.
Okay.
I'm the precursor to your allergies.
I would inject Shay into me with his injected pollen to become stronger.
I'm lost now.
I take your blood.
Oh, okay.
And now I'm Shay. But
you injected what you hate the most. Oh, I get it.
So I hate pollen.
Oh,
and I hate you the most.
Okay.
It's just like double injection.
It's true.
Nosferatu's a vampire, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Isn't that the vampire
He's
name?
the oldest vampire.
He's the oldest vampire, yeah. I just know him from SpongeBob. I'm so sorry. As always, you can catch a brand new episode of the Movie Podcast every single Monday. There's a great episode that you can listen to right now where we cover everything that happened at the Oscars on Sunday. You could also catch review episodes and all the latest movies and series. There's lots of great reviews you could check out right now. We just dropped our Moon Knight review for the first 4 episodes, spoiler free. Also, our review for Everything Everywhere All at Once is now available. So make sure you're following us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Letterboxd so you can see exactly when all of our episodes go live. Don't forget, you can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, join our Discord, and write into the show at hello@TheMoviePodcast.ca. If you want to get a visual medium instead, you could head over to youtube.com/TheMoviePodcast. Anthony's been doing some great work over there, getting all of our videos up and getting our shorts there. So, we're just trying to, we want you to ring that bell and smash that like button, right? That's what they say?
That's 100%. We want you to subscribe, like, comment, and inject yourself with our media.
Right. I don't know what you would turn into if you did do that, but if you really did want to live the Movie Podcast way, let me give you a really great segue. The Movie Podcast merch is now available. So if you want to dress like us, if you want to have a really cool shirt, we're partnering with the good folks over at Bonfire to create official podcast merch for the Movie Podcast. So check out the link in the show notes below or wherever you're listening to this episode, and it will get you to our Bonfire page, and you can pick up some shirts, long sleeve t-shirts, and whatever you like. What's your favorite? What are you rocking right now, Shay?
See, I'm rocking the green tee.
Ooh, that dark forest green shirt.
Forest green.
It is a nice one.
Green is a great color for my complexion.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. Big fan of the green.
Yeah.
Anthony, how about yourself? What's your favorite?
For me, it's the long sleeve black tee.
Nice.
You put that over shorts. You go. You have that out in the summer.
Yep.
I always do the reverse. I wear a long sleeve.
You do that.
And a short.
Oh yeah, I'm a fan of that too.
Instead of a long pant and a t-shirt.
Right.
So I do the opposite. Just more sporty look. And I think the tees are great quality.
Yeah.
And our symbol, our logo, just stands out so much.
I'd say it's a symbol of fear.
A symbol.
Symbol of
Goodness
vengeance.
me. But yes, I'm rocking. I've been rocking the green. Sorry, not the green. I've been rocking the gray T-shirt with our logo.
Yeah.
Been really liking it. So finally, it's here. I know we've been getting a lot of questions asking when are we finally going to get merch. We've begun the process. So now you could officially order it. It starts shipping about a few days after you order, and of course, every shirt that you order helps keep the lights and the mics on for the Movie Podcast. So thank you so much for doing that. But today,
But what's this little special though?
Oh, tell me what's special, Shay?
About what if you buy those shirts right now?
Yeah.
What if you put a little code in there?
I think if you put a little code in there, yes, there is a promotion code going on right now. So if you did want to buy a shirt and you wanted to save 10% off, put in the keyword movie and you'll save 10% off.
You won't forget it.
You won't. I hope you don't forget it.
It's literally one of the words
on
in
the
name
shirt
of the podcast
and on the shirt.
And on the shirt.
And you won't forget it.
Dude, I would message you
Yeah.
You'd be like, yo, what's that word again?
What's the word?
What movie? What's the movie podcast?
But you wouldn't even say like, yo, what's movie podcast code?
What's our show name?
Yeah, I don't know. Also, so one quick thing before we dive into our spoiler-free review, we have some special guests joining us on the movie podcast next week. If you're following us, I'm gonna keep it as a tease, so you can make sure you're following us on our socials to see exactly who we're talking to. But let's just say it involves some different multiverses, and I'm gonna leave it at that. But today's episode is all about Morbius. This is our spoiler-free review, and I want to say thank you to our friends at Sony Pictures Canada for inviting us to watch it. The film stars Jared Leto as Dr. Michael Morbius, alongside Matt Smith, Adria Arjona, Jared Harris, Al Madrigal, and Tyrese Gibson. And Morbius releases in theaters April 1st. It ain't no joke. And it's going to be coming out this Friday. And I just want to say, of course, this is going to be spoiler-free. Unlike everything else that you've seen online about this movie, we will keep our mouths shut. Anthony, I'm going to get you to start us off with the synopsis.
Dangerously ill with a rare blood disorder and determined to save others suffering his same fate, Dr. Morbius attempts a desperate gamble. While at first it seems to be a radical success, a darkness inside him is unleashed. Will good override evil, or will Morbius succumb to his mysterious new urges? So
this movie has been a long time coming. We had a running joke on the show that the trailer used to say, from the studio that brought you Far From Home, and then from the studio that brought you No Way Home. And now we're finally here. Shay, what were your thoughts going into this movie, and what are your first reactions coming out of it?
You kind of just brought up like this film's very tumultuous release that we've kind of had.
Oh, that's an expensive word you just dropped on us.
Let me look that up in the dictionary.
We're making money now from the shirt.
It's true. We can afford those words now.
And not even that, but just the week leading up to this, we got all the spoilers. Like you can see the post-credit scene's been leaked. Like everything is out there right now. So luckily, I didn't read any of that or see any of that before I went in to watch this movie. But I'm a little surprised when I say this. It wasn't that bad. It wasn't as bad as people were kind of making it seem. Having watched both Venom and Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage.
Which movie, sorry?
Venom.
No, thank you. I just wasn't sure.
Yes, you don't know what I'm talking about until I do the voice. I get that. Is there a Morbius? Who's into the Morbius voice?
Yeah, but what's the Morbius voice?
I come to suck your blood.
Oh,
yeah, exactly. That's it. But I'm also not a huge fan of Jared Leto. His acting just always kind of bothers me. But in this film, he's very serviceable. He does the role as good as he possibly can, and he doesn't come off annoying. The movie has great merits in the sense of you can tell they were trying to make something good, but they misfire on what the story is. The film feels like it's ripped out of 2003.
It does, yeah.
There's some shoddy CGI, but there's fun being had by Matt Smith, which feels like he's in a different movie altogether.
Matt Smith is in a totally different movie than everyone else in this movie, yeah.
But I left the movie going like, yeah, that was bad, but there's potential in this. You put this with the right writers, there's something good that can happen with this character. I just feel like Sony's cinematic universe they've created right now isn't built on quality.
No, it's built on let's just get it out there.
Let's get these characters out there.
These films so far have been such at a breakneck speed of pacing. Like Venom: Let There Be Carnage didn't even let you breathe. This film kind of slows down a little bit, but it's just moving so fast you have no time to actually connect with what's happening. The villains are just being introduced. Within the first 10 minutes, he's already Morbius. Like it's very quick, this film.
Everything's very fast. It's very quick pace in this movie, which normally isn't a bad thing. I mean, in the right circumstances. But I will say I do respect that this movie didn't try and make something that was over 2 hours long. We literally just got a comic book movie that felt like it came out at the same time as Daredevil or Elektra. Like it feels like in that same vein that this movie's coming out, which you may go into this, and if you're a fan of the Venom movies, I think there's going to be they share a very similar DNA. And like you said, Shay and Anthony, like these movies have been kind of coming out from the Sony end. We've been seeing the quality side more with the Marvel Studios branding with Spider-Man, but Sony's been kind of playing in their own playground and doing their own things with this as we see. And this movie also in the teasers was letting you know, hey, this is connected to the world of Spider-Man somehow. There's Spider-Man billboards, and here's Michael Keaton's character. So I'm going to be very interested to see the reactions to people once they kind of get the answers for that. Anthony, where are you at with Morbius?
Going into this film, I the precedent was I'm not going to like it because it's just that's the world we live in, and seeing reactions and everyone's talking about it, and
we've been talking about this movie a long time.
The time to get this movie into the screen just took forever. So I'm like, okay, it's going to kind of be like Venom. But once the movie started, I was a little bit intrigued, and I could clearly see the potential of this character, and Jared Leto did not bother me as much as I thought he would. Like, he actually...
Right.
I liked his character.
I liked
Michael Morbius.
Michael Morbius is an interesting character.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think that part of the movie was where I saw the potential. I'm like, man, this could really be a good film.
Right.
But the writing is where it just kills me. It's the editing, it's the directing. That's where it just kind of goes downhill. The writing is lazy. The directing, it felt like you were watching a music video because the continuity of shots, you would be going from one destination to another, but it didn't make sense. Certain scenes where Michael would show up, you would wonder how he got there or how he is interacting with this person or that person. It just felt very like, use your imagination. You can figure out how he got there.
You can tell there are reshoots in this film.
And yeah, you could definitely tell.
And a lot of ADR, right? We were mentioning, and we don't typically call out those type of things because, making movies is hard. Nobody wants to go out and make a bad movie. But it was also very jarring in the scene where you're getting voiceovers from people or you're hearing lines of dialogue that quality-wise sound different from the location that they're in.
Yeah.
And also you're not seeing people's lips moving.
Yeah.
So like that's
the biggest one.
That's the biggest kind of egregious thing about that, right?
And the visual effects didn't really bother me either. Like, I thought certain parts of the visual effects were really good. I actually liked the sound, especially in the beginning. The sound was
great.
Really cool sound design.
It moved you in your seat, which was, I think that's a plus when you're watching a movie and you're like, okay, I'm intrigued. Let's keep watching.
We watched it in IMAX as well.
Yeah, and it looked crisp in IMAX as well. But there are certain parts where you could clearly see the mouth is not matching the audio.
Right.
And like things like that, like you're making a movie, you have to like fix that before you
those are the things that pull you out of the movie, because again, not that we're saying this movie's terrible or great, it's kind of somewhere weirdly in the middle, but it's like those type of things that when you notice them in a movie, those are the type of things that will really pull you out, and it will make everything else kind of seem worse. Because of that. Right.
Yeah.
With the Daniel. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Just one thing, like I thought like there are scary moments in this, and I thought if this was in a better director's hands, who was the director for Doctor Strange, the first Doctor Strange?
Scott Derrickson, yeah.
Scott Derrickson.
Yeah.
If he were to direct this, because I think his Doctor Strange would have went more horror. I think that's where the creative difference is.
For sure, yeah.
Like you can clearly see like the potential of this character being in a horror film that's also a superhero film.
Right.
And I just hope like we get a better story in the future. But it's a hit and miss at times.
Right.
There's potential.
There is.
Potential, yes.
And
100%.
I think that's, I like what you said there, Anthony, because I think, again, the director of this film was an interesting choice. Daniel Espinosa, who directed Safe House, he directed Life, which we actually liked, which is the Jake Gyllenhaal, Ryan Reynolds, Rebecca Ferguson film, which is basically kind of like a Venom movie, but in space.
Yeah.
And it was also a Sony Pictures movie that everyone thought, is this a secret Venom prequel? Do you remember that? It could have been really cool if it was. But there's moments in this where I'm like, yeah, like they're just relying too much on horror movie tropes. It's like, oh, here's a long hallway with the lights flickering and a character pops into the screen. It's like, you don't need to do this. And I think if you had someone who came from a horror movie background, you could have made this movie really scary. And I'm also thinking like, okay, Sony, you're doing your own thing right now anyway. This is where you could kind of swing for the fences and do some really weird shit. You know, if you wanted to turn Morbius into an R-rated, not that it needs to be R-rated, but if you wanted to do a full-on horror movie, this is the character to do it. Maybe if we get a sequel, if this movie does well, we'll see maybe more of a horror take on this character and him kind of battling some darker creatures out there. And I think that would be really cool because I don't want to see this character like fight Spider-Man. Like I don't think that would be that interesting.
No.
You know what I mean? Like
But which Spider-Man?
This character is so perfect for Blade.
yeah.
And I know he is. That's Blade's kind of like, we'll say, villain that he goes and finds.
Right.
But like, this character does not make sense in the Sony universe. It makes sense in the Marvel universe.
Yeah, where he could
Right.
play with those like darker characters,
Yeah.
right? But for me, for this movie, honestly, I think like with you guys, we were just kind of expecting, like a dumpster fire, and I kind of left. I never once in this movie was just like, this is god awful or anything like that.
Yeah.
No.
But I was also like, yeah, this isn't great. This isn't too good. Especially it has those moments where you're just like, wow, this is a choice. There's a scene where like Matt Smith's character is like dancing, and you're like, why is this here? And there's a lot of scenes in this movie, even though it is a shorter film, feels like these are just deleted scenes that they had to put in here to pad the timing of this movie. Shay, you kept pointing out how many establishing shots of New York City is in this movie.
Every single transitional scene in this film is a skyscraper.
It's like a skyscraper, and again, it's just something that almost reminds me like of a TV show does.
Yeah.
Because a TV show coming back from commercial, oh, this is where
Right.
we are.
Law and Order.
Law and Order. It's like
Friends.
here's the skyline. But yeah, it's a very interesting thing to call out, and I know it may sound nitpicky, but it's enough to the point that we're like, this is kind of strange that they keep doing this.
It's a little jarring.
We also have side characters that are there, but they don't do anything for the story.
Right.
Like Tyrese Gibson.
And
his character.
Tyrese Gibson and the other actor Al Madrigal they're just kind of in this movie for some reason. They're like detectives, kind of track down what's going on, and
A lot of staring out.
a lot of staring out. They're always just kind of like at the scene after the fact, and they're not in this movie too much, but they're also like, what's your role then in this film? And I think they could have easily just been removed from this movie.
They didn't push the story forward.
No.
Or you can literally remove their scenes and the movie changes in no way.
Yeah, there was a scene where like we see Morbius go up to the rooftop, and then Tyrese's character is like on the bottom floor, and then literally there's a slow motion sequence, and then Tyrese Gibson is on the roof. So I'm like, how the hell did he get there so fast?
Yeah. Does he have powers too?
Yeah, it's like there's a lot of moments like that. Like it really feels like a movie from the early 2000s where like we don't really know how to make a superhero movie yet. We haven't cracked the formula, but there is some really interesting things in this movie. And I will say, Jared Leto, love him or hate him, he is at least interesting to watch in this movie.
He's the best part of this film.
He is the best part of this movie, and I'll like I said with Venom, this shares a lot of similar DNA to Venom, and I will happily watch a sequel to this movie. Is this movie good? No, but I'm curious enough to see what they do next that I will watch it. Is that strange to say?
Yeah.
No, because it's just the movie. Like we keep saying, there's potential. Like it is a bad movie, but there's something there that you're like, you could do something really good with this, but why aren't you?
Right.
And especially when you've had this movie delayed so much, you would think, like it's just crazy how much from the trailers to this movie has changed.
It's true, and you will see that people going into this thinking that this is going to be really tied to Spider-Man. Just set your expectations, because you're not going to be getting that type of movie.
And this is the movie that I was hoping to go into to get those kind of Venom-related questions answered. The only thing that we kind of get is this movie takes place in the Venom universe. That's about it.
Right.
But again, still, so many more questions. Like I feel like this one should have at least answered more. It feels like Sony is just biding time right now till they get some sort of approval from Marvel or
Of what we could do.
or they kind of get an idea exactly what they can do, so they can finally be like, yes, this was our plan all along. We're gonna bring back Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man, or
Right.
we're gonna have our own Spider-Man, or there is no Spider-Man. Like we're just biding time.
Right. I did like Adria Arjona in this film.
Adria Arjona? Yeah.
who is the doctor who Michael Morbius works with. I wish she was used a bit more, because the scenes that, like, she's good in what we get, and then she kind of disappears from the movie for a long time. And then I think the weakest part of this movie is the villain, as we've kind of seen in the two Sony Marvel movies that we've gotten in the last 5 years with Venom and then Let There Be Carnage. The villain has been the worst part of those movies. We love him. Oscar winner Riz Ahmed was such a bizarre character in the first Venom, and then we had Woody Harrelson in the second film, who was just crazy. It was such a weird performance, and it's not even just the performance, it's just the writing of the character. And I think it all kind of comes back to the writing of the story, because visually there's some really cool visuals, like Anthony was saying. The slow-mo shots look a little dated. It doesn't look, it looks a little shoddy sometimes, but you're like, okay, they're trying to go for a different visual style. And I kind of like the
smoke effect,
the ripples. It kind of reminded me like when characters apparate in Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Where you
Nightcrawler reminded me of
Nightcrawler too.
Yeah.
Reminded me of Nightcrawler.
And it looks cool, and especially when Jared Leto's kind of wearing the purple jacket with the undertones. I'm like, oh, it looks like
his costume.
It looks like his costume.
Yeah.
Which was really cool. But yeah, I think just the weakest parts of this film come from the villain and Matt Smith's character. He had that interview not too long ago where he was saying, yeah, I didn't really know what was going on. I was just doing whatever the director told me to do.
You can tell.
And you could tell that this was a performance that he just kind of went in, cashed a paycheck and dipped. And it's not a strong performance. It's a very poorly written character in the sense that his motivation to turn on Morbius and to do all of this stuff, it's just very thin
and not warranted.
It's very thin. It's not warranted.
It's not warranted. It's not believable.
It's such a silly turn, and it reminds me of like, okay, we have to have a villain get mad at the hero for not helping them, and then
there we go.
That's it. And it's like, oh, of course, because he becomes his character and he injects himself with something, he goes crazy and starts to act funny, starts dancing and starts, it's such a tired like trope that we've seen in these films from like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how are we still doing the same thing with these characters?
Some of the things that I also kind of didn't understand were like the opening title sequence and the ending title credits. They have this like, Tron 80s kind of like synth vibe going on, like beautiful colors, but it doesn't match the film at all.
No, it's a very dark movie.
It's like it makes it seem like such a cool, hip, like funk film, like very electro pop, and then all of a sudden the movie has nothing to do with that. So I found that design choice very interesting, and also the score. Like we get a lot of like Batman tones.
Yeah, the bum bum. Yeah, we're like, oh my god,
okay,
Hans Zimmer's here.
Yeah, because he's like rising up with the bats, and I'm like, oh, are they just saying Batman right now? Like, what is this?
I got a lot of that. There was that one sequence where you're just like, is that the score for Batman Begins? And even like the way it was shot with the bats hovering around, and it just felt like Batman Begins.
Yes,
because at times, yes, it's a supernatural film, but it can also feel grounded.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got that a lot. And I'm like, that's kind of cheap. Like, don't take something from another movie and
about bats
and with bats in it and like stick it into your film. And it looks cheap. Like you're cheaping out your own film. Be original, and that's why I think like for this film they should have had a horror director directing it.
I'm really curious to see, because I think, if we do get another film in this universe with Morbius, I'm really curious to see what path they go down. If this movie is very much an origin story, I'm really curious to see where they go from here. Any other final thoughts on Morbius before we give our final reactions and recommendations?
The mid-credit scenes are so
bizarre,
stupid. Like they have literally, they seem so hammed up and very last minute. I don't even know how to describe them.
They feel very tacked on and very strange considering the marketing for this movie. Again, we won't spoil it now. This is our spoiler-free review, but we will talk about it in the coming weeks on the movie podcast. But it's a very bizarre thing to have attached to this movie and a character to be introduced.
Strange motivation too.
I would say like you had the word. It's a marketed ending to a film.
Yeah.
It looks like a commercial shoot.
Yeah, it felt like a commercial shoot, and it felt like this is what to expect, but with no proper story build up to it.
Very last minute.
Very last minute.
Yeah. Very, very strange. But let's get to our final recommendations. Shay, I'm going to get you to start us off.
I'm going to say skip it. I don't think you actually have to watch this movie. I think if you're curious, maybe wait till it comes out for streaming through maybe Disney Plus or however they want to release this movie. Maybe Netflix. Is
probably Stars or
Stars
Netflix,
or something. But if you liked Venom, you're probably going to like this, so then go watch it. But if you did not like Venom, you're not going to enjoy this film either.
Anthony, how about yourself?
If you're a fan of Venom, I would say definitely go watch this. But for me personally, I would add this to my queue. I would watch this at home. It's not something to rush out to. There's nothing that you're going to gain from the story that's going to really excite you into the universe Sony's trying to make or fumbly make. But yeah, this is definitely added to your queue for me.
Yeah, I'm right there with you guys. I don't think you need to see this movie in theaters. You could skip that easily. But if you do like Venom, you'll probably get a lot of enjoyment out of this movie. And I think there were some moments that we really enjoyed and laughed at, maybe for the wrong reasons. But and like Anthony, I would say, if you are curious, add it to your queue. Check it out when it does come on home release. I just want to say thank you again to our friends at Sony Pictures Canada for inviting us to watch Morbius. You could catch it in theaters April 1st, if that's your thing. And as always, you can catch a brand new episode of the Movie Podcast every single Monday. And watch out throughout the week for review episodes and all the latest movies and series. There are lots of episodes and lots of reviews out for you to check out. Don't forget, you could follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Letterboxd, and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and join our Discord. And right into the show at
hello@TheMoviePodcast.ca.
The Movie Podcast merch is available now. If you want to support our show, that would mean the world to us. There's some really great shirts available, and we plan on making a lot more, so definitely go check those out. All the links you need are in our show notes below. And that was this time with the Movie Podcast, and we'll see you next.